On the eve of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Ferrari's rallying cry was to believe and push to the last lap to leave no room for regret. While the 2024 Formula One Constructors Championship did not go Maranello's way, broadening the perspective, the fact that Ferrari fought for the title until the end underscores the growth achieved throughout the year. In a season that proved extremely challenging on multiple fronts for many teams, Ferrari demonstrated several positive aspects to build upon in pursuit of the championship. To understand why, we must revisit the story of this championship, starting with its beginnings, when the Maranello team emerged as the second strongest force behind Red Bull in the early races. Unlike Mercedes, Ferrari decided to change its concept in 2023, but unlocking its true potential required the winter development phase, including a chassis redesign. As in previous years, the work carried out in Maranello during the off-season bore fruit. Given the struggles of Mercedes and McLaren, Ferrari quickly asserted itself as the second force on the grid. Despite the fact that the gap to Red Bull remained considerable, starting the 2024 Formula One season with a solid foundation for continued development was a key objective for the technicians and the engineers in Maranello. While there were still areas to address, such as performance in long and high-speed corners, the progress made with the SF-24 during the winter was evident, with notable advancements across several areas. In terms of overall performance, data highlighted improvements in medium to high-speed corners at circuits like the Jeddah Corniche circuit in Saudi Arabia and the Suzuka circuit in Japan. For instance, at Suzuka, where the SF-23 lost around 0.6 in the first sector alone at the end of last year, the gap this season was more than halved. This was due in part to the SF-24 being fundamentally different from its predecessor, not only in terms of strengths, but also in balance and handling. One of the objectives was to make the car more predictable and easier to drive than the SF-23, which was often difficult to handle, particularly in strong wind conditions due to its aerodynamic map. From the outset, the 2024 car proved to be not only more manageable and intuitive for the drivers, but also well-balanced. On the other hand, the SF-24 also differed from its predecessor in specific traits, such as its ability to preserve tire life over long distances, although this came at the cost of quickly bringing tires into their optimal performance window during qualifying laps. This was a recurring theme throughout the 2024 Formula One season, particularly when extracting maximum grip from the soft tires in Q3, where the Maranello team faced some additional challenges. Despite areas requiring further work, the progress observed in the early races confirmed the effectiveness of the winter development efforts. Ferrari secured podium finishes in almost every one of the first 6 Grand Prix with the sole exception of China. This was a crucial factor as the solid foundation allowed the team to shift its focus to development, with the first aerodynamic upgrade package arriving for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at the Imola circuit. The Monaco Grand Prix stood out as the most dazzling highlight of the first half of the championship for the Italian side, showcasing Charles Leclerc's exceptional talent on the streets of the Principality and highlighting some of the SF-24's best qualities. This came despite the car often falling short in qualifying performance throughout the year. However, in Monte Carlo, where qualifying is everything, Ferrari did not disappoint, leveraging a track that suited the car's characteristics. The joy of that Sunday afternoon in the Monaco Grand Prix unfortunately preceded Ferrari's most challenging period of the 2024 Formula One campaign, the mid-season phase. In the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, as later admitted by the Maranello team, a setup mistake cost them, but it paradoxically became a critical lesson applied in the second half of the championship. More complicated was the triple header of Spain, Austria, and Great Britain, where Ferrari stumbled into a common 2024 pitfall, namely errors in development. In an effort to enhance downforce, the Ferrari technicians and engineers introduced a substantial aerodynamic upgrade package in the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, including a new floor. However, the updates brought back aggressive bouncing, which not only compromised the car's performance but also eroded driver confidence. The Austrian Grand Prix illustrated this issue starkly, with the bouncing so severe that the Maranello team abandoned the new floor by Silverstone, even reverting to an older specification that provided more stability and less aggressive peaks in downforce. Ferrari found itself lagging behind competitors like Red Bull and McLaren, particularly in high-speed sections. Although initial corrections were made by the Hungarian Grand Prix, partially alleviating the bouncing, it was evident that these fixes alone could not close the gap. More significant developments had to wait until after the summer break. Reflecting on the 2024 Formula One season, team principal Frédéric Vasseur pointed to this challenging period as a critical factor in losing points in the Constructors Championship. Frédéric Vasseur mentioned that he preferred not to enumerate the specifics, but acknowledged that with the new updates, Ferrari faced difficulties in 3 or 4 consecutive races, during which they lost approximately 80 or 90 points to McLaren. Indeed, this difficulty coincided with the season's most delicate phase, a grueling calendar featuring 3 consecutive high-speed circuits, followed by a brief 1-week break, then 2 more races. While Ferrari introduced fixes between the British Grand Prix at Silverstone and the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest, the compressed schedule of 5 Grands Prix in 6 weeks left little time for comprehensive intervention, costing valuable points in the championship battle against McLaren. Recovering from setbacks is often considered the hallmark of success, and Ferrari embodied this principle. From their mid-season struggles, they found their way back, particularly with the upgrades introduced in the Italian Grand Prix at the Monza circuit. The aerodynamic updates in Italy, followed by improvements to wing flexibility, provided increased downforce and stability without reintroducing the bouncing issues that had plagued the SF-24 earlier. This progress was evident in the United States Grand Prix at the Austin circuit, where the track highlighted Mercedes' W15 limitations, while Ferrari excelled in slow corners and clinched another victory. The same strengths resurfaced in Mexico City, where Ferrari secured a second consecutive race victory, re-entering the championship fight. However, familiar issues persisted in subsequent races, such as high-speed corner deficiencies at the 5.4-kilometer Lusail International Circuit in Qatar, and sensitivity to cold conditions, as seen in Las Vegas, where the car struggled to quickly bring its tires into the optimal performance window. The SF-24 thrived on circuits with sharp corners and long straights, favoring its characteristics. Yet cold temperatures remained a limiting factor. Ferrari's qualifying struggles this year are another area requiring significant focus during the off-season, as McLaren, for instance, managed to balance single-lap performance with race pace, a key feat Ferrari that has yet to achieve for now. Ferrari's performance in fast sections and long corners remains an area needing improvement, along with combined braking zones that demand greater front-end stability. This was an area where the MCL 38 single-seater excelled, with McLaren making substantial progress compared to past seasons. Their balanced and effective car showcased its strengths at tracks like the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi, underscoring Ferrari's need to address similar deficiencies. Despite its challenges, Ferrari's season laid a foundation for a completely new 2025 project. The clear goal is to now launch a championship-winning campaign in the final year of this regulatory cycle, before the new generation of single-seaters will hit the track in the 2026 Formula One season. While Ferrari lacked pure performance and technical leadership compared to a McLaren that emphasized reliable updates, the Maranello team's cohesion, both technical and human, proved invaluable. Strategic improvements influenced by Frédéric Vasseur became a key asset, forming the bedrock for next season's efforts. With this trajectory, Ferrari dreams of a title-winning year ahead,